Yes, ma'am. We're live. You may start.
Hello, everyone. A warm good afternoon to one and all. So we are here in this international webinar on From Illness to Wellness, Strengthening Mental Well-Being. And this is the post-lunch session we are approaching. We have already done with 2 panel discussions. We have started from 10 a.m. and it continued in 2 different panels from 10 to 2 p.m. And now from 3 to 6, we are going to conduct our 3rd panel discussion. And we are extremely delighted, honored, and privileged to have with us eminent speakers from India and abroad. I myself, on behalf of SEAM, Council for Educational Administration and Management, West Bengal chapter, a collaborator with Star Scholars in this wonderful webinar. From my behalf, welcome all of you present over here, all the eminent academicians, panelists, and my learned dear friends from India and abroad. I'm really grateful to you for your sparing time, and you have made your mind and time to spend a little thought of your, or spend a little time with us so that we could enlighten ourselves. And also, I would like to mention that the previous 2 sessions were moderated by Azra and Zeba, who also belong to the SEAM fraternity. And I am a little bit scared whether I will be able to, follow their route, because they have moderated so nicely. And this is my 2nd role to play here, because in the 1st session, I was as a speaker, and in the 3rd session, I'm going to moderate. So if there is any false mistakes from my side, please do apologize me. So now coming straight forward to the session, again, a very warm good afternoon to everyone. So the session will start with Professor Girishwar Mishra, and on board, I'm able to find you, sir. Most welcome. So let us have a focus on his academic backgrounds, his academic inputs for the higher education in India. Professor Girishwar Mishra is an honorary professor in the Faculty of Contemplative and Behavioral Sciences, Psychology, with a PhD in psychology and being a fellow of the National Academy of Psychology, FNA. He is highly regarded for his influential contributions to the field. He ranked 9th among the top 10 most influential psychologists worldwide, making him the first and the only Indian to achieve this recognition based on his decade-long contributions from 2010 to 2020, according to Academic Influence. Professor Mishra has held prestigious positions throughout his career. He served as the Vice Chancellor of Mahatma Gandhi Antarrashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya in Wardha, Maharashtra, India. He has also served as a psychologist and head of the department at the University of Delhi for 2 decades. Additionally, he was the president of the National Academy of Psychology, India. As an accomplished author and editor, Professor Mishra has published several notable works in the field of psychology. His publications include Psychological Consequences of Prolonged Deprivation and Deprivation, Its Social Roots and Psychological Consequences. He has also authored the book Handbook of Psychology in India. Furthermore, he has served as the chief editor of Psychological Studies, published by Springer for 16 years. Professor Girishwar Mishra has received numerous national awards in recognition of his contributions to psychology. His expertise and extensive body of work have solidified his position as a leading figure in the field, both in India and on the global stage. A very welcome to you, sir. We are really privileged to have you here with us, and we want to get ourselves enlightened with your speech and with your focus on mindfulness and holistic approaches to sustain mental health, which is the third theme for this panel discussion. Moving on to the second speaker of the session, Dr. Kimin Mayuzumi. Do we have Dr. Kimin on board now? Or
No.
she might be joining later? Okay.
Yes, I informed everyone. She'll join
Okay.
later.
Fine. Okay, so once she comes, it's better to read her bio there, because one will not be, participants will not be able to.
Maybe you can just introduce, we can begin with Professor Mishra because he might be leaving soon.
Okay, okay.
Then
So-
you can go ahead with Dr. Yadu and myself. Okay.
Sure, sure. So we are really eager to listen to you, Professor Mishra, and you are cordially invited to be on board and start with your deliberations. Please, sir, over to you.
Thank you for your kind words. I'm happy that this series is trying to capture the challenges of health and well-being. I'm sure the last two sessions must have created interest and helped to identify some of the key dimensions of health and well-being. As shared by the organizers, this panel discussion focuses on mindfulness and well-being. Let me make it clear that the experiences during the pandemic have led people to sincerely think about the state of well-being. And people from different parts of the world are showing interest in trying various methods, techniques to empower themselves in a way that they are able to cope with the challenges and find life enjoyable. The notion of mindfulness is one which has received more attention in contemporary world, I think during 80s. But that is not correct in the sense that its tradition is very old. It goes back to Lord Buddha. It goes back to the tradition of Vipassana meditation. So in Hindu tradition as well as in Buddhist tradition, meditation has played a significant role. And as you must be knowing, in the next few days, we are going to celebrate International Yoga Day. I'm mentioning that because a better term is yoga. Mindfulness is part of that yoga. Mindfulness is a very special kind of technique or method where a person is required to pay attention to the present. Now, the past experiences are not accessible to you except they are available in memory, and you can waste your time with thoughts about past, but you can't do anything with that. So the practitioners at Massachusetts University started thinking about this possibility, and they found that perhaps something can be retrieved from Buddhist tradition. And then they tried to incorporate the insights from that, and they created a combination of a kind of relaxation, a kind of therapy, where mindfulness is also incorporated. So they specifically used a kind of a modified technique of meditation where the focus is more on present, and by creating that focus where contemplation is very important, where non-evaluative attitude is very important, they engaged participants to develop awareness about body, awareness about feelings, awareness about environment. So the entire focus of mindfulness is on creating awareness. It seems very awkward that what is the meaning of being aware of your own feelings or being aware of your body? It's your body, it's your feeling. So you must be aware of that, but it's not true. Most of us are not aware of about our breathe also. If you just start paying attention to how you breathe in and how you breathe out, you will find a different experience. It goes on normally, but becoming aware of that is perhaps the first step in mindfulness training. So what I intend to share with you is that mindfulness tries to create a focus on present moment, to get rid of the past, to get rid of the future. And it tries to create awareness at different levels. Technically, there are several sessions and there are techniques through which you gradually develop this kind of focus. I also think that there is a kind of threefold focus of this whole approach towards wellness. One is intention, that you must develop or cultivate awareness. The second is attention. Intention, attention is the second one, and attention creates attention to present. And third is the attitude. What kind of attitude is involved? You should be kind, and you should have an attitude of nurturing others. A phrase is used, loving kindness. It's a phrase which is quite frequently used in Buddhist tradition. So intention, attention, and attitude, this threefold approach is involved in bringing mindful in practice. So how to live life fully, how to enjoy life, and the process which is proposed in mindfulness engages individuals' intention, attention, and attitude. Through systematic intervention, one can change the approach towards self, body, environment, and this will transform the way you conduct yourself, the way you conduct your activities. In the beginning, I mentioned that I would like to put it as a part of yoga. The term yoga simply means to unite, to relate. And how you relate? When you relate, your awareness changes. And you also change. Your worldview changes, how you connect with the world. If you go through literature, you will learn about Vipassana, which is the Indian counterpart of mindfulness. The Western term is mindfulness. The Indian tradition talks about Vipassana meditation. So it's a kind of meditation where you engage with focus on present, changing your attitude, changing your intention. Now, how all this is going to change your well-being? That is an important aspect, and I think we should talk a little bit about that. When you create this kind of focus, when you try to engage with present, when you become non-evaluative, then things come and go. Then they don't assume the status of an attachment. You are not concerned with that. Actually, I am reminded of the notion of anasakta. That is non-attachment. Things are happening and they happen and they persist for some time, they continue for some time, and then they leave. How to become unaffected by that? How to remain separate and those things don't have influence on you? That is the goal of anasakti, non-attachment. So, how you approach a task, and in entire process, one psychical structure or psychological structure becomes very, very crucial. And that is ego. If ego is engaged, and if you connect everything with that, and everything becomes part of the ego, I am reminded of the current scenario where there is greed as a great challenge. So you have something, you need more, and you think that once I have that, then there will be no desire. That doesn't happen. Then it leads to desire something more, and that fraction of that will further increase that desire. So it goes on, the story goes on. I don't think it is going to solve the problem. We see the kind of scenario which is taking place across the globe. Solution is not to enhance the ego. I will just share name of a book which I got a few years back, but it always reminds me, and the title is The Curse of Self. The curse of self. You develop this kind of notion of self where you want to gratify all the needs. You become so connected with that. You are absorbed. Your total existence is connected with those attachments. So psychologically, it may be considered as some kind of deconditioning, where you try to detach yourself. If you develop an attitude of mindfulness, you will have a position that things come and let them come, let them go. Now, this approach, this stance will change the need structure, will change the way you satisfy yourself or the condition of well-being. You know, the notion of well-being, or more frequently psychologists use the term subjective well-being. And they have proposed that there are three aspects of that. One is how you evaluate your life, how happy you are, maybe on a scale of 10, how happy you are, right? And the second component is that what is the extent of positive feelings that you have, or positive affect. And the third component is the experience of negative affect. Now, positive affect should be high, negative affect should be low, and subjective well-being has the third element, that is life satisfaction. So the judgment of life satisfaction should be high. So high life satisfaction, low negative affect, and high positive affect, all these three elements are going to decide the way you experience your well-being. Well-being consists of these three elements. So experiencing well-being in terms of these components is one way to look at well-being. It is difficult to accept it, and to accept it as a solution. It may be a temporary solution, but I don't think it is going to solve the problem. It is not. It is not working like that. And at least that should not be the goal of well-being. As an Indian, I am reminded of the notion of well-being as stated in the great text called Bhagavad Gita. I would like to refer to that because it illustrates that the right kind of personhood or selfhood or experience of well-being will depend on when you are unaffected by the positive and negative. I'm just thinking about a model. So the model of steady person, or in original Sanskrit, Sthita Prajna. a person with steady wisdom. That person is one who is not affected by the negative, who is not affected by the positive. Sthita prajna is like that, a difficult condition, right? But if let go, if that attitude is prescribed in mindfulness, it reminds the state of non-attachment, it reminds the state of steady wisdom. That you must decipher the temporary nature of the positive and temporary nature of negative. And if you are not affected by that, then you are free from the burden. Because if it is positive, again, it is going to create more burden. If it is negative, again, it is going to create more burden. So you will accumulate that burden. And the Indian thinking is, do you know, the word is Jivan Mukta. A person lives life like a liberated being, and the liberated being remains unaffected by these. So you should develop this kind of awareness that what is happening in this world has nothing to do with me. It is happening out there. A difficult job, a difficult attitude, a complex attitude. But again, it is something is good or bad, depends on your past experience. Something is medicine for one person, but that same thing is not medicine for another person. So it's not the quality of that object. It's not in that. It's not positive or negative there. It's you, your engagement becomes so crucial. What becomes important and what becomes not important, it depends on your attitude. So the awareness, the attitude that we have, the intention that we have are going to play the clinical side. We try to focus on intention, attention, and attitude, and stepwise, gradually, change is introduced, and you develop the state of mindfulness, and that ensures well-being. I will stop here and then.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Mishra. It's really enlightening, at the same time very surprising for me, because you have ended approximately, absolutely at time. I was just here to remind you that you are approaching your time, but you are much more specific to end up in right time. So I would like to express my heartfelt thanks and would like to focus a little bit on your deliberations, which was absolutely based on mindfulness and the different aspects, how to practice yogas, which is another side, a very important practicing side of might be children, individuals, everyone who want to release themselves from the day-to-day depressions, anxieties, and overburdened life. So, sir, could you please enlighten with us how these could be practiced? As because we know that nowadays yoga has become a course in the higher education, it has been included. And as such, the school education, irrespective of any boards, it might be any state boards or CBSE, ICSE boards. So it's not exactly the part of the curriculum, though it is practiced in the school days for the children. It has become the co-curricular activity to practice the yoga. So could you please suggest that is there any specific kind of practices that could be learned by the teachers, and introduce them in the school for the benefit of the school children?
I'm grateful to you that you have asked about the provisions in school setting, in college setting, in connection with the practice of mindfulness and yoga. Let me tell you that these days there is a spate of activities pertaining to yoga. You have online and offline classes, good classes, bad classes, all kinds of things are taking place. And I also want to mention here that the use of term yoga only in terms of certain exercises, certain asanas is not correct. As I mentioned, the attitude is there, the intention is there, and attention is there. That constitutes the domain of mindfulness. And if you focus only on mindfulness, then they begin with observation. You have to observe your breath. You have to observe your body. You have to observe your environment. Then they talk about let go, developing this kind of attitude. What is happening? How to remain sakshi or a witness attitude. They also say that you need to develop or cultivate an attitude to acceptance. Education is also part of that. These are the various steps. They need time, and they need a trainer, a person who is competent to help you to build across these stages. All that requires, I would like to use the word, the expert guidance. If you do it wrongly, it may create problems. So we need to create this kind of facility to train people to learn these things. And since we talked about yoga very briefly, yoga is not only the asana. Asana is the third. Before that, there is yamas and niyamas. I don't have time to elaborate, but they are also part of that. The term is Ashtanga Yoga. So they are organs. Like the whole body has different organs, and they go in a united fashion. They join together to create a whole. So yamas and niyamas, and if you decode them, then you will see that satya, ahimsa, aste, all these are there. So there are so many things. So asana is one part of that. When we talk about mindfulness or yoga, we need to think about the attitudinal part, building habits, good habits, as well as asana. These are techniques, and they can be used as good techniques or bad techniques. A knife is used to do many things, to cut a fruit or to do something wrong. So the technique may be used rightly or wrongly. So it's a big problem. So only technique is not enough. You need to develop intention as well as attitude.
So how far would you recommend learning yoga through videos that are readily available nowadays? If we go through simply open our phone and switch on to the YouTube channel, there are so many, as you have referred to. How far do you recommend? Just
you
your
need to be careful, and you also have to monitor that what kind of changes are taking place. So with a cautious attitude, I think one should try.
Okay.
It's
okay. It's really nice to have a very flexible approach of yours regarding these recordings, or rather the videos that are readily available in the YouTube channel. Otherwise, my experience goes like those who are very strict or strict practitioner of yogas and asanas, they never do recommend that, yes, you could see those videos, watch those videos and try. But really, I'm happy to get a very flexible approach of yours that, yes, of course, you could at least try with this. Anyway, we now are approaching to the, yes, sir, please.
In a big way. The scenario is changing in a big way.
That's
Even
right.
in your education, you are supposed as a student to have 20-30% courses done with your online courses. I
Absolutely,
mean,
sir.
you need quality training. That's
Absolutely.
important, but I think you can't disregard this. You can't, you have to. It's
Accept.
present, and we need to see what are the positive aspects of that. Yeah.
That's right. Thank you so much, sir, for
I
your
have a
enlightenment.
question,
Yeah,
Dr.
please,
Shamli.
Dr. Char. Yes, please.
Sir, since you have
Sure.
taught for so long, sir, and in your experience, sir, what do you think? How would you define the role of the teachers in maintaining and sustaining mental well-being of learners?
It's a difficult question because teacher is a role model for students. What teacher says, how teacher comes, the dress of teacher, the manner, all that provides knowingly, unknowingly, intentionally messages, and unconsciously and consciously all those messages are received. And teacher is very authentic for the student. I think one has to be very sincere as performer of the role of teacher. So the role of teacher is, so great. We know in our tradition that it has been given a status higher than God. Kabir Das has said it. So it's very important, and teaching profession should be taken very seriously. And teachers' actions, behaviors, it's not only providing information to children, transferring certain skills. More than that, the character, the attitude, the behavior is very, very crucial, very, very critical. And all of us experience that young kids experience God in teachers. We see in family that children say, no, teacher has said nothing else. The acceptance is there. The source of information is very credible as far as the child is concerned. So I think teacher has to play a very important role. This should be emphasized.
Thank you so much, sir. And who else would know better than a student of yours? As I have been, sir, very fortunate, very blessed. And there has been so much that I have learned. I don't know if it shows or not, but I'm so grateful, sir, for mentoring me, for being my teacher and my guide and my mentor. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are really blessed to have you here. And please be with us if you really have time. And we will again be very happy if we find you after the second speaker or the third speaker. And I'm eager to know something more from you later on. So please try to be with us. Now, we should move on to the second speaker of this session. Our second speaker for this session is Dr. Charu Sharma, an associate professor of human development and childhood studies, teaching over 25 years at the Bhogini Nivedita College, affiliated under University of Delhi. She is the country director, India, of Star Scholars Network. In 2021, she was awarded the Fulbright Academic and Professional Excellence Award, for which she went to the Graduate School of Education, University of Pennsylvania, USA. Dr. Sharma was also the officiating principal of Bhogini Nivedita College prior to her second Fulbright Award. She also worked as an actor teacher in the National School of Drama, which opened up her pathway into the arena of creative drama and children's development. She has also been associated with the BLED, Bachelor's in Elementary Education program run by University of Delhi. In 2023, she was at the Graduate School of Education, University of Pennsylvania, USA, as the Fulbright Postdoctoral Fellow. Thereafter, also awarded the Shastri Indo-Canadian Award at the University of British Columbia, Canada. Dr. Sharma was a Commonwealth Fellow at the University of Reading, UK. She received the Research Award from the University Grants Commission. She was awarded a postdoctoral fellowship by the Indian Council of Social Science Research in 2008 and 2011. She was awarded the doctoral fellowship to conduct a pioneering research on trauma and children's development by the Indian Council of Social Science Research. She was awarded the second position for the best paper presentation at an international conference. She has conducted several international workshops, delivered lectures in different universities globally, and she is on the editorial board of several international journals. Her publications include a noted book published by Routledge, UK. She works closely with educators, teachers, school administrators, and children, and her work extends into the arena of creative drama, meditation of school children. Her work brings on board education policymakers so that they can experience the value of creative drama. She has successfully completed the mindfulness-based stress reduction course at the Marcus Institute of Integrative Health, USA, and she is also the instructor for Yogasan, Pranayam, and mindfulness. So with such a rich background and a practitioner of yoga, at the same time teaching teaching in the higher education sector, Madam, we heartily welcome you, and we are eager to listen to you on mindfulness. And now the board is yours. Over to you, Dr. Sharma. You are not audible. You are not audible.
So, yeah, I was expressing my gratitude to you, Dr. Shanli, for those kind words. And that was just, you know, I mean, I'm feeling a little nervous because my guru is here. My teachers, both Dr. Bruta and Professor Mishra. It's unnerving, you know, to be in your presence. And I am taking this liberty to make this presentation because after my presentation, I'll have to coordinate with the speakers from Canada and US. So I'll have to wake them up and tell them to join. So excuse me for any anything which goes wrong or not perfect, but I'll try my best. So I would request Pankaj to please help me with the PowerPoint. Thank you. So this session, we are focusing on mindfulness and holistic approaches to sustain mental health. And as Professor Mishra just said, that it is all connected to yoga, and yoga is the connection of body, mind, and spirit, in my experience. So mindfulness is also one of those streams which picks up on through yoga and talks about connecting to your own self through being present in the moment, in the present moment, which is the only real moment, which is the only truth that is, because the past is something which already has gone and washed away. And the present is uncertain. We are not even sure if we'll get the next breath. So this moment is it. Can I have the next slide, please? So let's go back. Let's go back to the second one. Thank you. Now, in this particular moment, I see that we are all here together, and I take this liberty to stop the screen, if we may, and may we all come online with our videos on. And I would open up this presentation with a little brief mindfulness breathing. So Pankaj, if you could please stop sharing the screen, and may I request all the participants to please put on their videos, switch on, come online, be visible, and wherever you are, take a comfortable position with your feet firmly placed on the ground. And if you may, you can close your eyes or you can lower your gaze. Thank you so much. I see so many people have turned on the videos. Thank you. I'm so grateful. And just trust this breathing process, which we all do. That's the reason why we are alive, because we are breathing. So sit in a posture where your spine is straight and your feet are on the ground. And just feel your body wherever it is touching any surface. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes or lower your gaze. And just feel the breath that enters through your nostrils into your body. And feel the expansion of your belly and the contraction of the belly as the breath moves up and goes out. Take another deep, mindful breath. Be with your breath and feel the journey of the breath as it enters through the nostrils and deep inside the belly. Feel the expansion of the belly, the movements of expansion, contraction, and feel the breath leaving the body. I invite you to take one more deep breath with a feeling of gratitude towards this breath, which is pran, which is life force. Feel again the sensations that arise in the body as you take this deep breath for which you are grateful. And feel the belly expanding and contracting as the breath gradually moves up and it leaves the body through the nostrils. And just be in this moment. Feel the expansion of your heart, feeling grateful for this life force, for this Shakti, the Pran Shakti, through which you can experience this entire life. And with a sense of gratitude, may I invite all of you to very softly open your eyes with a beautiful smile that we are alive. And this is precious to be together. Thank you. So Pankaj, we can go ahead. We'll have to. Thank you. So if we can take a moment and just drop in a word each about what are you feeling right now? And there's nothing right or wrong, there's nothing good or bad. It's just about what you feel at this moment. And if you feel nothing, that's also fine. If you can't have that sensation of anything, or you can't figure it out, that's okay too. So we'll come back to the chats and we'll have a little discussion after. So Pankaj, can we please go on to the next slide? So mindfulness, as Professor Mishra said, it's not a new term. It's just a modified version of something which existed long back. Whether it's coming from yoga or Vipassana, the practice Vipassana in itself is about developing equanimity, about not being affected by the external people, the situations, and just experiencing, being aware of things, of sensations in the body or of the thoughts, but not becoming the thought, because we are not the thought. So in one of the definitions which I'd like to share here, given by Jon Kabat, who actually developed this program of mindfulness-based stress reduction, he says, along with William Teasdale and Siegel, mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally to things as they are. So the breath, as we just experienced, the breath is there. It's just happening. It's always present. But how often do we actually pay attention to our breath? Not very much. So this practice is one of those ways through which we get to learn about paying attention. And the easiest form to begin, in my experience, is to get aware of your breath, because the breath is always there. So that makes it easy, when you're focusing on the breathing process, then it becomes easier to stay in the present moment. Next slide, please. So as I just said, being present, being in the present moment, and it also means that when we are engaging in any of the activities in the daily life, how can we still be present? Now, mindfulness is not just about being aware of your breath, but it's about living in awareness. And that would mean, for example, mindful listening. When we are listening to somebody, are we completely there, or are we thinking about 10 other things? And when we are thinking about 10 other things, that means that we are not completely present. So how these practices, how mindfulness meditation, how awareness in each moment can lead us towards a mindful life, which entails mindful walking, each step that we take, it's important to actually acknowledge Mother Earth as we are putting our steps on the earth and walking. It's a beautiful feeling to actually experience that. So these are certain skills which can be enhanced even from childhood. So it's just, teaching little children also to be present when they're walking or to enjoy the walk, not just do things at random or just very mechanically, and mindful talking. So when we are talking, are we fully present? Is it just something mechanical when we are in the class, when we are teaching students? It is just, something which we've memorized for over years and, we are just sharing that information out? Or are we actually relating to our students, relating to the person who's there with whom we are talking? So, yeah, just a few practices, while we are going through the presentation. So Pankaj, can we come to the next slide? So how often do you think that you connect with yourself? Do you think it's easy for you to connect to yourself, or you have never tried, or it's very uncomfortable, or it's scary and fearful, to just be with yourself and connect to yourself? I think mostly in my experience, I've seen people not willing or open to connect to themselves, because they say, it's better to always be in the company of people and, to have that social exchange and interaction. However, there can be times where, there is this inner self that also needs acknowledgement and acceptance. And when we get away from the external world, which can be very, it can capture our attention, our mind, our thoughts in ways which can be also very ego-driven, is when we realize that, it's time to step back and connect to your own self, to take a deep breath and connect to the core of who you are. And this is also part of the mindfulness program, where it also teaches and engages us to connect to us, to the inner self. Next slide, please. So in the next two slides, I'll be highlighting a few practices which can strengthen the mindfulness muscle. So when I say muscle, it's a habit. It's like a muscle which has to be strengthened. It's nothing that, we watch a presentation and we get it in our head and we become mindful. It's something which has to be put into practice every day, and we can falter, thousands of times, and then again you have to get up and still, continue on that path. And that is how that mindfulness muscle gets strengthened, by practicing awareness of your thoughts. Now, some of the young adults, with whom I interact and I teach, so their minds, they say, they're constantly occupied. Either they're thinking most of the times, or, they have the cell phone, and the cell phone, they're just scrolling it. And, it's like an endless thing. If you don't have anything else, then you just have the phone and you're just doing this, this is not really a healthy thing. So when the thoughts are there are tons and tons of thoughts. So the best analogy which I found, which worked great for me, was that the thoughts are like the clouds which are moving, and we are like this clear sky. The sky is clear and the clouds are moving. So you don't have to flow with the clouds. The sky is just there, still. And this is who we are. We are that stillness. We are that center, that consciousness, and everything else is just passing by. So the thoughts are like clouds which are just flowing. And once we get aware of the thoughts, so we catch ourselves and we are not moving with the thoughts. We just let the thought come and let it go. Let it go. The challenge is to actually let it go. So most of the times we love engaging in the thoughts, whether they are good, they are not so good, or, you know, there can be things which really keep us engaged in our thought processes. So if we just let go of the thoughts, I think that's when we can be more centered and grounded and be fully present. And one more practice would be just spending time with yourself, which, as I said before, could be very daunting also. Sometimes we are very uncomfortable being in a room by ourselves because we always enjoy company of others. We always are surrounded by others, but take time out for yourself and learn to relax. And relaxation is not just the physical relaxation, it's more about the mind getting relaxed, where you can be close to nature, or you can sit in silence. You can just watch your breath. That's the easiest because it's readily available anytime, every time, anywhere, everywhere. And trusting the process of life. So, everyone, I would say, there are situations that we are dealing with in our lives, in our workplace, and different kind of situations which crop up, but not really getting fearful or getting attached to those situations. I think it's most important to just let go, as Professor Mishra also pointed out, to just let go. And maybe that's the process of surrendering to the higher self, the higher power, the universe, the creator, the life, just surrendering to the process of life and let whatever comes in, and whatever is getting out of the life, let it just go by and not get attached with the feeling of detachment. Just trusting the process and surrendering to the process of life is one of those important techniques. And impermanence, which is really a key factor, I would say, in practices like mindfulness and also Vipassana, where, the breath also that we take, it's changing every time. When you are in fear, the way you breathe is different than when you are angry. And when you are silent and quiet and at peace, the breath is more deep. So even the breath is changing. We are changing every moment, right? So the fact that impermanence is the essence of life, that nothing in this world is permanent, not even your problems. I think that changes the perspective, that not even the good part, neither the good part nor the bad part. So everything is just constantly changing. And that is a great relief when, we can remind ourselves of impermanence, the nature of life, of existence. Next slide, Pankaj. Thank you. Now, some of the key elements which I think we all know and we also practice, but sometimes it can be difficult to, is to treat others with compassion and empathy. As we had in the earlier session in panel 2, where Professor Bruta and Professor Lisa and Dr. Dimple were there. And, there was this very interesting conversation about when people can be difficult at your workplace, your co-workers are difficult, then what can you, how do you deal that? I think we could deal that with compassion and empathy, because we do not know what the other person is going through in their lives. And to really think of others as another person, another human being who's dealing with life, who's struggling, right? And that can help us build up compassion with people who really don't mean well to you. But that opens up our own heart, our own spirit. And I think that's important for us. If it helps others, that's good, but it really helps you as a person. And it's important also, I would say, as a practice, to listen to your inner self, because that inner self sometimes is nudging and is guiding you. And most of the times we are just so bombarded with our thoughts and, our conditionings and a mind that's working constantly and taking us in a particular direction. But that little voice is knocking and is wanting to say, hey, listen to me, stop. Or, just don't do this, or you do this, whatever it is, there is an inner wisdom, that constant inner guidance, which is there with each one of us. So that can be cultivated through practices like meditation, like mindfulness practices, like yoga. And another aspect which seems to work very beautifully in lives is nature. To be with nature. I think nature has that capacity of love and, feeling of freedom, and just connecting with nature. It could be anything, I'm sure, we all have some kind of bonding and affinity with some particular kind of nature. Some people like to go to the mountains, some people like to go to the river and the beaches, or they sit in the garden. So anytime when we can do this, I think it's beautiful to connect to nature, because that is the pure essence of life. And our pure essence loves to connect with that pure essence, which is in nature. And of course, for young adults, I always say, if you have any dreams, just follow it with compassion. There'll be roadblocks, there'll be obstacles, there'll be tons of things, and people will pull you down, but do not stop yourself. If you know your heart is telling you to go in a particular direction, and there's a strong inner urge, then you should always go with it. And it comes also from the last session that all difficult situations and all difficult people can be our best teachers if we may see it and perceive it in that way. Because most of the times you have people around us who, they might really boost our egos and always say good stuff about us. And, it's good to have those people. That's your tribe. They make you feel good. But the ones who give you a tough time, the ones who they bombard your ego, the ones who are super toxic, they are triggering you. And they are the ones who actually, those triggers are the ones who lead you towards your own healing, which is so important. So always be grateful for those people who are toxic, who are pulling you down, who really are mean to you, because they'll lead you to something which is more beautiful. They'll help you connect to your core. And again,
Excuse me, Dr. Sharma.
Yes.
I would like to take the chance. Yes. Would you please wrap up your session?
Yeah, sure. And to challenge yourself at getting better than you were yesterday. So I think there is, it's beautiful to, when I work with young adults mostly. So I tell them that you have to compete with your own self, if at all, and there's no competition with anyone else. Just compete with yourself, get better, not just, professionally, but also as a human being. How much more compassionate are you getting? Are you getting any kinder, or are you hating more people? So just compete with yourself. So Pankaj, can we come to the next slide? Meditation, as I said, is one of the techniques. So in this slide, I just wanted to touch upon what do I mean by meditation. So it's the process that teaches the mind to be still and silent. And within the silence, the being is able to be most creative and is living in the moment. So it definitely has a connection with mindfulness. It's all these are similar techniques. And how it can really help in challenging conditions such as stress, depression, and hypertension. So, those, instead of going for those pills, I think it's important to just, as a practice, do meditation and connect to yourself. And those things would probably not even show up. Next slide, please. So this slide talks about, it's just a slide with stop. Now, what do we mean by stop? Do we stop? How important it is to stop? When do we stop? Next slide is going to expand this acronym. So it says S is to stop sometimes during the day from whatever you're doing and take a mindful breath. Observe what you're doing and thinking. And after that, proceed forward. And this can be very helpful as a tool to do a few times in a day. Next, please. So the next two slides, in fact, rather, this is the last slide. It talks about, Pankaj, can you just move on? The slide is not showing up completely. Yes, thank you. So mindset comes to the last part of my presentation. And so what, to create your life, what tools can we use? Now, these are some of the tools. Some things might work for somebody and some might not work for somebody. As Professor Mishra said that, one thing can be a medicine for one and it can be toxic for somebody else. But if you begin each day with a positive approach, as Dr. Sunil Suresh in the morning session was also talking about positive psychology, positive approach. This day has begun, so it's beautiful. It's going to be beautiful because I'm alive, right? And the fact that we are alive, it gives us endless opportunities and possibilities to create and to do and to be. And with some people, a gratitude journal really works. And I often tell my students to smile as much as you can and to bring a smile to another person. Just keep doing that as a practice. And then we come to forgiveness, which we talked also in panel 1, forgiving whoever has hurt you and forgiving your own self. Not just beating up yourself every time. Oh, I did this and this didn't work out, or somebody did that and this. So just forgive, let go as much as you can, and embrace love and kindness over anything and everything. And some affirmations as part of, some strategies could be telling yourself that I'm happy, I'm in great health, all is perfect in my life. Everything is always working out for me. For the young adults, these affirmations really, they sort of help them to, think in a positive direction. So the next slide, actually, so all of you, I would again invite all of you to please.
I'm sorry, Dr. Sharma.
This is the end. This is the end.
Out of time.
Kimini and
we are still 3 speakers left.
Yeah, but they have not joined in right now. So we'll just manage the time. This is the last slide anyways. If you give me the permission, Dr. Shauli.
If you are going to explain, it's good. I think if you are practicing something, I feel it will take a little more time. So you please take care of it.
Yes, thank you. So I would request all of you to please come back again in the same position as we were, with your feet firmly placed on the ground, with your spine straight. And Pankaj, can we just stop sharing this one? And if we can see all of us together in this moment where we'll be practicing loving kindness meditation. May I request all of you to be present with your videos on. And bring forth in your mind everyone that you know of in your life, and the rest of the world who you do not know, you've never met. just bring to mind all the people, all the creation, and with an open heart, send out these vibrations and blessings. May you be peaceful and happy. May you be safe and protected. May you be as healthy and strong as you can be. May you live with ease and kindness. And now just focus all your attention on yourself as you tell yourself, may you be peaceful and happy. You tell yourself, may I be peaceful and happy. May I be safe and protected. May I be as healthy and strong as I can be. And may I live with ease and kindness. Pankaj, you can come to the last slide. And very softly and gently, you're all requested to open your eyes gradually. And with this loving kindness meditation, I end this session. Thank you so much for your presence, for your patience, and for being this collective energy today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sharma, for your wonderful presentation as well as practices that you made our participants do. Still, I think this is a very short time for us to practice. Hope we would get much more scope to meet you in person and learn all this. And a little question, though we are running short of time, still I cannot suppress my inquisitiveness to know that as you are teaching in higher education sector, is there any scope, according to you, what do you feel? Is there any scope to make the higher education learners, especially, practice such kind of mindful sessions in their institutions, not at home, I'm talking about, or rather, in a roundabout way, if I place my question that way, like if you are the administrator, how could you frame the curriculum so that this could be included, if not in the curriculum, still in the co-curricular activities in the higher education sector?
Thank you so much, Dr. Shawnli. In fact, that's it's a great question because I have had the experience of being the administrator of my college. I was officiating as a principal, and I could create those exposure for my students. And it wasn't just mindfulness, it was about various kinds of spiritual practices of which the students were oblivious of. And it just opened up a lot, some of them, they got their path, towards spirituality and towards groundedness and learning those techniques. So it's just that we as institutions of higher education, we haven't really focused on exposing the young adults with, so much that the world has coming from the roots of India, I would say. So people are not aware of, and those opportunities can definitely be created. At least I was able to do that at my college. So I'm sure as administrators, everyone has that possibility and that can be created.
Thank you so much. We really look forward for these practices in the educational institutions so that students get accustomed to it. Because as we have discussed earlier in the earlier panels, like several times the idea came up with different speakers. Like once the children are asked to do something at home by their parents, they don't really pay attention to. If the same thing is asked by their teachers, they really feel very much interested on this. Anyway, on this special note, I express my heartfelt thanks to you for your wonderful presentation. Now it's time to move forward to the third speaker. Our third speaker is also he will be speaking on mindfulness as well. And he will be speaking on the topic mindful pedagogy, integrating professional development and mindfulness of teacher. Now I would like to take the opportunity to introduce the third speaker to you. Dr. Yadu Prasad Gawali, Assistant Professor and Interdisciplinary Researcher at the Faculty of Education of the Midwestern University, MU, Surkhet, Nepal, has contributed with several responsibilities: Assistant Campus Chief of Central Campus of Education, Chairperson, English Language Subject Committee, Member, Faculty Board of Education Faculty, Secretariat Member, and others in the university from its establishment. He has been teaching postgraduate and graduate students for more than 16 years for professional growth. He has participated and presented in different national and international conferences and seminars. He has published books, research articles, and general articles in various areas of English language teaching, research, and interdisciplinary aspects in national and international journals, and op-eds in different newspapers. He has been coordinating several international projects on behalf of the university. He has visited India, Greece, Italy, France, and Switzerland for academic purposes. He is also a well-known motivational speaker and presented many sessions for students, parents, and social members in Nepal. He is a PhD scholar at present at Chandigarh University, India. So with such a vast experience of teaching and international experiences as well, I would be extremely happy and delighted to welcome you, Dr. Yadu Prasad Gawali, on board. Now over to you.
Thank you, Professor Chakraborty. At the first, I would like to thank for this opportunity for the organizing committee. And this afternoon, I am talking about mindful pedagogy and integrating professional development and mindfulness for teachers. Yes, we have been discussing from the morning different mindful awareness as well as activity-oriented perspectives in different discipline or in different perspectives. Just I want to relate this with the teaching and learning. Just I want to connect this mindful for the classroom purposes, for the learner purposes. Therefore, my presentation includes basically these 4 parts. And I don't want to spend more time on what is mindfulness. What is mindful? Because there are so many definitions, so many discussions that were held from the beginning. That's why I don't want to spend more time on this. I will spend some time on pedagogical connection, then mindfulness and professional development of the teachers, and what may be the future directions. Basically, mindfulness that is originated in the Eastern philosophy that we believe. This is the part of the Eastern philosophy, especially in the Buddhism. Then after it is developed in the Western perspectives as well. Nowadays, we can find different researches, different perspectives, and different ways of the explanation by the different researchers in Western and in the Eastern part or all over the world. And basically, it is the process. I want to focus that this is a kind of skill. Mindfulness is a kind of skill, and that require 2 things. That is practice and the patience. Patience and practice are the basic components of the mindfulness, and that is determined or that is guided by our mind, by our thought, by our spirit. Because every beings have the notion of mental behaviors. And these mental behaviors are guided by our practice, by our passions. And similarly, it is discussed that it has the present connection, but it may have the past thoughts and future perspectives, but it focuses towards the present realities. What is now? Where is the things? And how is the state now? This is the most important part for the case of the mindfulness. That's why whenever we are connecting to the profession, what am I doing now? How am I going now? These are the most important thing. That's why mindfulness focuses towards the present state of the beings in terms of our attitude. What is my attitude? How I perceive something, how I conceive something, then how I put the attention towards something, then what is my level of awareness? With this general idea, we can connect mindfulness with the research focus strategy. In my understanding, because it arouses the curiosity in learning, it arises the independency in learning, or it creates the situation of ideological interaction by which a person can interact oneself. Like there is intrapersonal interaction we can find. Similarly, it may have the connection with the interpersonal interaction. That's why it is highly connected with ideological interaction also, is guided by the experiences that we get in our life skills. As it is discussed, originated from the Eastern philosophy and developing in the Western as well, then it is a part of the applied psychology, education, and wellness. Like it is related with being healthy. It is related with education. That's why this is not only the concept of the one part, this is the interdisciplinary concept. This concept has been introduced into the different disciplines, though it has more landmark into the applied psychology. Though being the psychological impact, it is advocating to the different fields. That's why here today I'm talking about the teacher's professional development through mindful perspectives. Similarly, this part especially enhance our perspective, our personal perspectives, how I take the things, how I deal with the things, how I behave with the situations. That's why it is connected with the personal behavior and personal responsibilities as well. That's why we can say, we can define, or we can explain the concept of mindfulness with connecting to the self. With connecting to the self, just like we may be developing ourselves with different intelligence perspectives. Like a person has the capacity of different aspects of the intelligence, like cultural intelligence, content-based intelligences, logical intelligence. Then similarly, there is the part of the emotional intelligence, and it is highly attached with the emotion of the people. Like this is individualized. Now, like nowadays, we can connect this mindfulness with the individualized learning or with the personalized learning. This is the personification, because we go towards the person, how one person can deal with the thing, not only with the things, with the situation, with the realities, with oneself, with others. That's why mindfulness especially focuses on self-exploration. I need to think, I need to explore myself, my experience, and self-transformation. How can I transform myself? I know. If I try to change, if I try to transform myself, I can. But if any other wants to transform me, I think there might be some issues. There might be some problems, because that I know how I can deal with the things. Yes, these things need to be circulated or need to be categorized into the classroom perspectives also. And next thing is activeness and awareness of the present moment. Yes, focus to the present. How the present situation is going on, our attention must be there. That's why the message is what the message is. We as a teacher, we need to be aware with the present context. We need to deal with the present situation, how we are dealing with. Do I know the developing technologies nowadays or not? This is my faculty. This is my own part. And if I'm not aware with the current trends, if I'm not aware with the current ideologies, then how can I develop myself? That's why mindfulness is necessary there, to know the present status, to know the present stand. That's why in case of the pedagogical concern, just we know, just we did practice of some meditations, some techniques, we did the practice. I don't want to spend more time on this. Yes, we did the practice of breath, body sensations. And we can cultivate the presence and connection with oneself and the world. Yes, this is very important part. This is necessary for us and for our children, like in school education, like in higher education also. One example, just I want to state over here. We are cultivating knowledge. We are forcing our students to do the things, like just say simple example. We teach the lessons, then at the end we ask, answer the following questions. Answer the following questions, fill out these things. Then by these things, we have to ask ourselves, is there possible to transform what the learners will learn? That's why we need to connect our learners with the world. The world means what? Reality. We need to connect our learner to the society. We need to connect our learner to the culture. That's why this mindful pedagogy especially focus connecting with the culture, connecting with the society, connecting with truth or self-reliant factors. One. That's why we need to create the situation by which learner feel of learning. We need to initiate the condition of feeling of learning rather than learning something. We have to add one vocabulary, the feeling of learning. And this is possible with connecting with the different parameters of the society. Like teachers need to involve themselves in these factors, just like stress management, emotional regulations, considerate classroom. How can I do these things in my classroom? For example, I'm the English teacher, and there might be science teacher, mathematics teacher, and how I deal with the classroom behaviors, how I deal with the learners, how I encourage my learners into the classroom. This depends upon me. Likewise, we can find different terminology, just like mindful, F-U-L-L, mindful, F-O-O-L, mindful, F-U-L. Just we can differentiate with these terms, with these terminologies, and we can identify the situation and we can regulate the activities in the way. That's why it is necessary to every teacher to change the paradigms of doing something in the classroom culture also. For this, for my classroom, for my subject matter, I'm responsible. That's why we can say mindfulness pedagogy is responsible teaching strategies, role-based teaching strategies, teaching with context. Like students, if that happens, students can focus towards their learning and transferring the learning to the society, like well-being. And there might be emotional development of the learners, not only emotional, social, cultural, emotional development of the learners, by then after they can be self-reliant with the options. Similarly, the curriculum need to focus towards the holistic development and self-awareness. Like there might be questions. Sometimes the things are not included in the curriculum, but these are in the curriculum. In my perspectives, there is hidden curriculum. And another thing, just I want to give an example. In our classroom, if we try to integrate soft skill development of the learners, really, this is one of the part that is in my observation. That's why we can develop the contextual and soft skill based, life skill based, and moral value based relations for the learners. Then there will be good practice of self-realization of the learners, because this is for learning for self-realization. If that happens, what happens? We can engage our learners with the positive thoughts. Positive thoughts, because this is our concern. Because mindful pedagogy or mindfulness pedagogy especially focused towards the acceptance of the views. Then acceptance of what? Means acceptance of the reality. With the acceptance of the reality, we can develop bodily sensations. And similarly, we can develop our research behaviors by which learners develop their curiosity within this. And there is the change. And creating happiness and the collaborative forces. Basically, if we engage our learners towards this realization factors, especially I want to connect this with, this is the factor of the practice and the passions, or developing self-realization for the learning. If the learners are realizing, oh, I'm learning the things, this is for me, there is the mindfulness. If learner begin to tell, yes, I'm learning for me, I'm learning for the society, I'm learning for my family, I'm learning for the nation, I'm learning for the globe. Yes, there is the concept of the mindfulness for the learners. Similarly, connecting with cultural and the moral awareness, sympathy, flexibility that we talked, and hidden curriculum practices means what we have, how we deal with the activities. That's why I believe myself that the content may be in one part, but how we deal with the content, or how we focus to the content, or how we are bringing the new things as per the present context are the part of the mindfulness for the teachers one. Therefore, we need to be clear, we teacher need to be clear with this concept, like how I'm taking my profession, my attitude towards my profession. Yes, what is my attitude towards my profession? This is due to my mindfulness. This is what means this perspective is formed and how I behave myself. That's why there must be change attitude, positive attitude, or the teacher need to think my responsibility is what? This is very important part to determine the pedagogy, to determine teaching learning strategy into the classroom. Similarly, emotional and cultural competencies are very important for the mindfulness activities. We need to create such situation in our classroom by which we can make our learners, we can encourage our learners, we can sympathize our learners, we can develop empathetical environment in our learners, we can develop moral values in the classroom, a self-realization concept in the classroom. That's all. Like integration of mindfulness in professional development opportunities. Obviously, that's how I need to analyze myself. I must have my own SOC analysis. I need to prepare my KWL chart, what I know, what I want to know, what I want to explore other more things. This is my responsibility. Then after I can integrate mindfulness activities in my profession, then I can develop myself. Like similarly, we are developing this like workshop training sessions in mindfulness by which we can discuss ideas in our school with our students in our classroom, and we can break out. Not only this, we can develop these mentoring programs for mindfulness, and we can implement this for the success or for the new practices. And especially by these all dealings, we can develop the collaborative environment and communities for sharing in the mindful practices by which we can introduce the way of learning that we are doing. Just we have to put something into the frame only. That frame means what? Like in short, I want to say that if we integrate soft skills in our classroom activities, really there is the practice of the mindfulness. It's the learner's engagement, empathy, learner's responsibility, and teachers' dealing are very much relevant for this concept. That's why at the end, I want to say that this mindfulness pedagogy, or especially the teacher, need to be highly responsible themselves, and they need to think, what is my profession and how can I deal with the things, deal with the situation, like what is my present context, what is my present situation. Teacher need to put attention on that, not to the past, not to the future, because the future way will be defined by the present activities, and past that can be used for some like developing factors, but not so much focused point of view that we already discussed also. Then we need to improve creativity and innovation, and we have to introduce creative activities into the classroom, innovative activities into the classroom. And we have to be aware with the changing trend of the education, and we need to, we must be able to adapt this into the classroom. And we need to create a society of mindful professional development by which we can deal with the different practices, or we can deal with different positive impacts in the society, because our society is going towards the impact. This is very much important part. Like not only outcome, our society nowadays, like the present context is not only looking for the outcome, our present context is looking for impact also. Input, outcome, then impact is the other part. Outcome, output, then impact. This is why means how the person behave in the society, how the person deal with the society. This is the most important part, and we need to change. We need to think. Before change, we need to think about the classroom dynamics and what might be the transformative tools, and this mindfulness activities need to be taken as the transformative tools into the classroom, by which our students, basically it will focus to make them responsible for learning, and they may create the situation of feeling for learning, by which they will be the mature learners. That's why with this present context, we need to think, every teacher, it is the time to think about the learners, about oneself, about society, and about the global impact, by which if we can engage the learners, and not more than this, this can be one of the engagement tool for the learners, and we can engage the learner into different activities in the classroom. Yes, the learners will be integrating different dynamisms of learning parameters. One. That's why at the end of the presentation, I want to focus that it may reduce, this kinds of pedagogy may reduce the stressing environment into classroom, and it will develop the professional culture and cultural competence in the sense every learner can develop their healthy lifestyles, self-care, and they can see their future themselves. With the notion of the present status, they can see the future themselves. Thank you very much. This is all from my part.
Thank you, Dr. Yadu. The topic was so new, so innovative, so engaging, and so interesting. I'm running short of words, really. It is a very new concept, and I think this might be the subject of your PhD as well, if I'm not wrong. Is it so? Am I right?
I'm just connecting one part, like I'm making the sister project for my PhD this, especially
Okay.
I'm talking of the professional development and technology, and I'm connecting this also.
Okay, okay. Anyway, it is very new for us. I think most of the participants will agree with me, and the way you have connected how the general practices, means the practice of mindfulness that we should do at home, or might be in the yoga clubs or kind of places, how this could be connected to teachers, and therefore it will flow off to the students, and how that will that could get connected with the pedagogical approaches, and how what are the different activities even to enhance mindfulness in the teachers. I felt very interesting. And in your last slide only, I found that you have tried to connect creativity with mindfulness. So I would like to make myself more clear, like how would you relate these two things? Like we have in the educational psychology, there is a chapter called creativity, and there is a very general topic, we all have gone through it, like methods of nurturing creativity in school children. So now just with referring to that part, like how would mindfulness help in nurturing creativity in school children? I'm very eager to listen to this.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for the question. Especially creativity is the important section for learning for every children. And like whenever we see the trend of the like school education or in the higher education, our students are highly dependent to these curricular factors, or like to the textbooks or the material that they are provided, not more than this. But we need to create the environment first. For example, like suppose I'm the teacher, I'm teaching global warming. Like there are 30 students in my class and I'm teaching global warming. Rather than defining the global warming, I can ask my students, prepare a poster on global warming. Yes, what's your understanding? Prepare a poster on global warming. Just like another thing, go to the next, like the seniors classroom and collaborate themselves. Like how can we develop, or how can we just tackle with this global warming situation? This means one part is like poster development, their individual task. Next task might be their group work they can do within their classroom. Next might be collaborative work with their seniors, and similarly the collaboration with the parents. We can ask them, go ask with your parents what the global warming is. And similarly, we can ask them, nowadays our students are very much fast in the technology. For example, if I get any problem in my mobile phone, I do ask with my daughter, here is the problem, please fix it. Yes, I do ask with daughter, I do ask my sister, I do ask my brother. This means what? They are a bit quick. Then we can ask them, just look for, go to these sites. We can give them some sites, go to these sites and find out how can we this. This means what? Self-exploration. We can develop this self-exploration, just like researching activities from the beginning also. And similarly, because this is why means we need to create the positive and inclusive environment to do these different kinds of activities inside of the classroom or outside of the classroom also. And next important thing is how the teacher behave with the students, how the students behave, their rapport or their relationship. By this thing, we can define, we can just like determine different activities. Just I cannot say the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, these activities, because the activities might be related with critical thinking, might be related with group work, group discussion, like such panel discussions, some creative activities, or that may be determined by the context, but they may be revealing with just like their positive thoughts, like their self-expression strategies, and like which may be supporting their like emotional well-beings also. I think so, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, you have really enlightened me. But again, I would like to add something to it. Whether I'm correct or not, it's up to you. You're there to correct me. Like mindfulness gives a calmness. Practicing of mindfulness gives calmness to mind. So could we relate this in such a way, like if the mind becomes calm, acceptive to everything, tolerant, I'm talking about school children only, considering, the children's mind is always, hovering around and flowing here and there kind of thing. So practicing of mindfulness gives that calmness, and that calmness gives them tolerance, and that tolerance helps them to work out things, activities, projects, assignments, and that finally with a calm mind, if we do something, of course, the output will be better, and it will result in good and better achievement. So would you approve my way of thinking, my flow of thinking?
Obviously, ma'am, obviously.
Thank you.
I accept.
I really
accept.
wanted to understand this mindful pedagogy. It is new to me, and I'm really happy that I'm able to understand, and it's approved by the teacher, Dr. Yadu. So anyway, thank you so much for focusing on this wonderful topic. Now it's time to move on to our fourth speaker. And let me please confirm with Dr. Charu that are the two speakers present over here. Would I introduce both of them? Dr. Charu?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Fatima and Kimini, welcome both of you. Good morning. So one is in the East Coast and United States, and I think Kimini, you are also in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. Are you able to unmute yourselves? Okay, can we unmute?
Yes, there you go.
Kimini? Okay, great. Welcome, good morning.
Good morning.
So let me welcome both Dr. Kimene and Dr. Fatima. Let me introduce them one by one. First, Dr. Kimini Mayuzumi. She is the editor and co-founder of the globally acclaimed blog, Being Lazy and Slowing Down. Her transformative programs, empowering coaching and insightful resources have inspired countless higher education professionals to embrace wholeness, clarity, and joy. Recognized by prestigious institutions, organizations like NCFDD, the University of Michigan, the Michigan State University, Kimene has conducted impactful webinars and workshops. Recently, she was interviewed for the podcast Self-Compassionate Professor. Kimene holds a PhD in sociology and equity studies in education and women and gender studies from the University of Toronto. Her co-editorship of the book, Whose University Is It Anyway? Power and Privilege on Gendered Terrain, showcase her commitment to exploring critical issues in higher education. So I'm honored and privileged to welcome you in this webinar, in this third panel discussion session. Now over to you, Dr. Kimine, and you may start with your presentation. Please, over to you, Dr. Kimine.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Dr. Shanali. Shanali, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Okay.
You're almost, it's Shawnee.
Okay. So I just want to be clear, how much time do I have here?
You will be looking into the shortage of time. Please try to end up by 20 minutes, and
Okay.
Still we could allot you 5 minutes more. Please go ahead.
All right. Okay. Yeah. First of all, I just want to suggest that we do stretching together, all of us. And this is totally like spontaneous, but I think like people have been sitting for a long time, and we need to change our posture. And I feel like doing that too. So I can lead stretching, through the Zoom. And if you can just join me, that would be great. It's not going to take too much. I think it'll be probably like 2 minutes or so, but I think it makes a huge difference. I guarantee. So let's stand up, and let me stand up as well. And it's best if you can turn on your camera so that I can see how you're doing and can connect. But if, everybody has a different circumstance, so I would understand even if you don't. All right, can you hear me? Okay, so first of all, let's interlock our hands and then bring them from the bottom. Like it's like scooping up the water or something from the bottom, and then start inhaling. Let's inhale. And take your hands all the way up and exhale. And stay there and inhale. Look up a little bit, try to feel your spine and exhale and release your hand. Okay, one more time. Bring your hands from the bottom again and inhale. And push upward and exhale. And inhale. This time, let's tilt our body to a side and exhale. Go back to the center, inhale. And to the other side and exhale. Go back to the center, inhale. And exhale and release your hand. Okay, let's roll our shoulders. Both ways. Okay, rotate your neck nice and gentle. Right, and your wrist too. Move your fingers. Open and close. Okay, that's it. So let me get back to my seat. All right. Thank you so much for those, especially for those who joined me. I don't know who joined me, but anyway, it's important for us to move our body. But anyway, this is kind of related to what I'm going to talk about today. I didn't really prepare for my presentation, but I'm just going to talk from my experience and what I'm doing, why I'm doing, and if I can share that with you. And then at the end, you know, I would love to know what people think and then practice. It's a really different context. I've never actually presented for the, you know, people in India. So this will be new, and I would love to learn a lot from you as well. All right. So in terms of, check. Okay, so this being mindful is part of our motto. We have a website called Being Lazy and Slowing Down. And then always we have this phrase, be mindful, trust the process, and let go of outcomes. And then I just want to share, basically being mindful is about also trusting the process. I think, sorry, the previous presenter, sorry, I can't remember his name, but yeah, a lot about the process, and also, you know, which we are immersing ourselves in, and also as it's also, for me, it's really important to let go of outcomes. And again, this is about really being in the present moment. So, you know, who is good at being mindful, like really being in the process, in the present moment? And for me, it's children. Children generally have such wonderful traits. I actually feel content and joyful when I become childlike, right? Like being playful, not thinking about the future, you know, but engaging with that I am doing, and also who I am with in the moment. So at those moments, I would feel liberated from the constraints and angst that have been perpetuating my, you know, like outcome oriented self, which makes me live out of fear rather than joy. So being mindful is what we need now when we are surrounded by a lot of uncertainties and also unsettling situations all around in the globe. So I would say really, we need to cultivate resiliency, but that also requires rest. And, sustainability requires moments of tranquility. So then I would like to actually pose this question. Being mindful, the question I want to ask is that, what are the conditions and the mindset that we can create within ourselves so that we could more effortlessly be mindful, trust the process, and let go of outcomes? So what are the conditions and mindset that we can create within ourselves so that we can be more mindful, trust the process, and let go of outcomes? So I would like to actually suggest 5 things. Let me have a sip. So number 1, we are human beings and not human doings. This is one of the reminders that we have to keep in mind so that we can be more mindful of what we are doing. So it's crucial for us to remember that our value as individuals isn't solely determined by how much we accomplish. And we are first and foremost human beings, not human doings, right? So while our actions are important, they gain greater meaning when we prioritize our well-being, cultivate constructive intentions, and also engage in self-reflection. By connecting our actions with our deeper sense of purpose, we can embrace the process wholeheartedly. And when we prioritize our well-being, our actions become more genuine and fulfilling, and allowing us to thrive from a place of authenticity rather than seeking external validation. And then number 2 is we need to cultivate compassion for ourselves. When we pay more attention to our inner selves, it's important to consider the various aspects that make up our being. And we are not only spiritual beings, but also social beings, existing within a complex societal framework. So our individual experiences are shaped by external factors such as race, ethnicity, gender, class, sexuality, disability, citizenship, and so on, right? And recognizing this, we must nurture self-compassion and understanding, acknowledging the realities and the challenges that may arise due to these external circumstances beyond our control. By practicing self-compassion, we can foster a sense of acceptance and kindness towards ourselves and promoting overall well-being. And then the third point is, this is related to what we did at the beginning of my time, the stretching. So the significance of our body. So our well-being encompasses not only our mental and emotional state, but also our physical dimension. So when we become consumed with thoughts of productivity, we often overlook the need of our bodies, right? However, our bodies send us signals such as hunger, headaches, and sleepiness or back pain, and to remind us to pause and also pay attention. So it's essential that we need these signals as they serve as stop signs and prompting us to take care of our physical well-being as well. So I saw Charu doing the meditation, and I didn't get to really see the previous presenters, but in terms of like breathing exercise and also meditation, the act of breathing plays really like a vital role in grounding us and connecting us to the present moment as well. It serves as a reminder that we are alive and here in the present. And especially after the COVID, I think the importance of breathing is really like became clear, right? And yet, unless we intentionally direct our attention to our bodies, we may ignore the valuable lessons that the bodies can offer us. So neglecting our bodies can lead to burnout, physical collapse, and even mortality. So therefore, let us mindfully attend to our bodies and honoring their needs and learning from them. And number 4 is like the importance of empty space. So I do Tai Chi practice. So in the Tai Chi practice, I have discovered the profound significance of yin and yang, the interplay of opposing forces, like polarities. So empty and filled spaces really coexist and really depend on each other. And emptiness is not separate from fullness, basically. So both states are essential. Allowing ourselves moments of emptiness and downtime is crucial for maintaining balance in our lives. So the moments of basically, I also call it nothingness in our mind, really trying to empty our, thinking, that refrain, those moments can refrain us from, thinking about our unknown future. That could really drive us crazy, right? Like thinking about future, what's going to happen, uncertainties. So in other words, the moments of nothingness can allow us to let go of our expectations and predictions, creating space for new ideas and insights. So I think, sorry, the previous presenter was talking about creativity. I think that's kind of related to that part. So the Tai Chi form I practice basically emphasizes that emptiness is the starting point. It's like a really fertile ground from which ideas can emerge and effective actions can be taken. And the quality can be really like produced as well. And then the third one, the fifth one, the last one, the transition requires intention. So, our life is really filled with lots of transitions. So, but especially life transitions like, relocation or loss of family, maybe like a new start of your life somewhere like a new place or a new position. Any life transition can be quite demanding, both physically and mentally, right? So without intention, we may find ourselves adrift, passively reacting to what happens than, really actively responding to them. So, however, by cultivating intention, we can really navigate transitions with greater ease, reduce stress, and approach the process with a positive mindset. So I have more like to say about what intention means, what intention can entail, but I'm going to just skip that. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that incorporating these 5 reminders into our daily lives can help us effortlessly, being ourselves into, bring ourselves into mindfulness. And by recognizing our intrinsic value as human beings, practicing self-compassion, attending to our bodies, and embracing empty spaces, and approaching transitions with intention, we create a foundation for really living mindfully. So these reminders serve as guideposts, really like reminding us to prioritize our well-being and stay present and engage with life in a more meaningful way. And let's see. I was wondering if I can, I meant to talk about my story, why I started doing what I'm doing. Do I have time, Shunali? I guess I do. Let me just continue. All right, so yeah, so even though I have served hundreds of academics to reclaim their soul and wholeness, you know, and cultivate wholeness and their soul without trapped as a fragmented, busy higher ed professionals. It wasn't the case some time ago, like maybe 17 years ago. So I was in grad school 17 years ago when I myself struggled with the toxic academic culture that surrounded me. And I bought into the competitive and the perfectionist nature of doing scholarly work and was really drowned in imposter feelings. And I observed how being busy was seen as a badge of honor. And I witnessed, faculty members suffering from their physical malfunctions and also even mortality. At least I think 3 of the faculty members passed away while I was in grad school. And even though I didn't know what the cause was, but I was not surprised. And also my research focused on the lives of minoritized women faculty in the Canadian Academy. And it became clear that they had to work tirelessly to overcome the, negative consequences of inequitable treatment. As I sought an academic position after graduation, I began to question if I was deluding myself by entering a toxic culture or if there was an alternative path. Then at a crucial moment, I found myself faced with a choice. Continue down the path of academia, ignoring the toxicity, or seek support to gain clarity on my life priorities. And after consulting with several trusted individuals, I made the decision to embark on a journey of self-discovery. So even though it meant really like scraping my savings together to pay for a mastermind program, I knew I had to trust the process and take a leap of faith. So a few months after completing the program, a significant shift occurred within me. I made a bold decision not to pursue an academic career, but instead serve academics by helping them cultivate wholeness, mindfulness, and a focus on life priorities. And as I started my business, opportunities began to unfold. I was invited to give webinars for the prestigious organization, National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, NCFDD, and I even conducted a workshop for graduate students at the University of Michigan. And I introduced services like the Slowing Down Circle, providing small support groups for academics, and the positive feedback started pouring in with people expressing gratitude for helping them maintain their sanity and reminding them of their humanity and also fostering a supportive community. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping academics slow down their busy lives and nurture their life priorities with fulfillment and joy. So, through my journey, I will learn the importance of trusting the process, seeking support, and being open to an unexpected path. So now I strive to empower others to find their own wholeness and break free from the fragmented and overwhelming demands of academia. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamini. This what you just talked about was really very powerful, and you definitely seem to be a role model for many in academia who've been squished in the system, and they don't even have the time to really lift their heads up and to think and feel the breath, not think, but feel that they're alive. And you've taken that step and trusted the process and gotten out of that rut and created a space for yourself. So it's beautiful, it's commendable. And what you talked about, we are human beings and not human doings. I just loved it, how you phrased it. And that's important also to realize that it's important to just be and not to be a doer all the time. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Kamini. Would you like to open up the sessions, or we just have one more speaker, and if I welcome her, and we can go ahead with having an interaction a little later with the two of you, if that's okay?
Yeah.
So Fatima, the last speaker on our panel and for the day today. Welcome, Fatima. So good to see you. So good to see you after so many years.
Thank you, Charu, for inviting me. I know this has not been very easy for you, given our time differences, but thank you so much for sending the questions, and I'm really happy to connect after many years now, right?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
lost count.
Delight. So I'm going to give your introduction to our participants here. So Dr. Fatima Zahra is an assistant professor of evaluation, statistics, and methodology at the University of Tennessee. She's currently working as a research director at PDRI Dave Lab at the University of Pennsylvania. In this role, she directs several research projects concerning the effects of climate change on human trafficking and human capital development. Dr. Zahra is also a research fellow at the Middle Institute at Howard University. Before joining Penn, she worked as a postdoctoral research fellow at Howard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and Howard Business School. And she has also worked as, is that the Global Ties? I'm just trying to figure what it is. The Global Ties for Children at New York University. And Dr. Zahra's research focuses on the intersection of human development, migration, and evaluation. Her research addresses inequalities in learning, health, and employment outcomes in forcibly displaced and other marginalized populations using culturally responsive randomized evaluations and big data. Dr. Zahra graduated with honors with a PhD in interdisciplinary studies in human development from the Department of Human Development Quantitative Methods at the University of Pennsylvania. So that's her formal introduction of Dr. Zahra. So welcome and take it forward.
Thank you, Charu. And I think it's probably relevant to mention here that I met you at the University of Pennsylvania, where we had, tea and snacks and, some really good times and, talking about life and graduate school and whatnot. I do not have a presentation. I was hoping this to be more of a discussion, setting, but I'm going to, sort of share some of my thoughts based on what I've heard so far. And what I've heard, I really liked it. And a lot of the work that I do, it centers around creating spaces, even in the randomized control trials that I design, or the kind of work that I do with my students using data science or machine learning algorithms. It's my main purpose as an educator is to create a space of collaboration where my collaborators and I can feel at peace. And I really, commend Dr. Maizumi for, speaking her truth about how toxic academia can be. So I'm living that life right now, and especially in the East Coast, and especially in some of these institutions that I've been affiliated with. I've worked for very competitive environment, and it's not very easy. I would say that. Since Charu, you shared some of the questions with me, and I'm not going to be able to answer all the questions. I would rather want this to be a discussion, but there are 3 things I wanted to address. I'm an academic researcher, and of course, I cannot claim to be a practitioner of wellness and well-being professionally, but personally, what I do is I practice meditation. Yoga is something that I can't do without. But most importantly, what has been instrumental to my my positionality as a researcher and my growth as a human being, if I may say so, is the practice of meditation, being present at the moment, which is not easy for the most part. But I've tried and incorporated that idea into my work as well. So I'll give a few examples in relation to the questions that you have asked over email. One of the questions was that how can mindfulness work or ease in building a sense of connection with family and peers? So some of the research that I've led, including some of the randomized control trials I've designed in Latin America, South Asia, and in the Middle East, where I've supported work, research related to playful learning. Playful learning is a way to refocus parents to engage their children in a way that the parents are present for them, and the parents are also engaging with the play. And through play, we expect, and there is a huge literature on that, we expect that the parents will have an opportunity to connect with their children, not just to help them learn, but also help themselves connect with the idea of play and be part of the play. As mature adults, we often forget about playing, right? Most of us don't play, if I may say so. Most of us don't go out and play or do something that's just for fun, like the way kids do. And I think one of the speakers mentioned that how it's easy for the kids to be present in the moment because they can be occupied with a toy or some activity with a peer very easily compared to an adult. We are always thinking about 100 things, the next thing we need to do, especially, if you're in the East Coast, that's how I'm currently based in New York. That's how the culture is. So in my work, what I try to incorporate is the learning component that I'm trying to sort of make it not too complicated to understand. So learning, a lot of the funding that goes into doing this kind of research work is on the outcomes, right? So has there been success in terms of mathematics skills or language skills or other kind of cognitive skills or functions? But the way actually human mind works is if you're not engaging with the content, or if you're not feeling that whatever you're learning is contributing meaningfully to your life. So I'm talking about parents now. So if you're just teaching your kids about mathematics, basic mathematics, or socio-emotional learning, and you're not engaging with it, it's not meaningful to you. You're not present in the moment when you're teaching your kids. That's when I think it becomes just an intervention. So in my work, what I try to do is that I try to create opportunities for parents to engage in a meaningful way. Sometimes this is by providing them with a tablet with some kind of technology they're excited about. Sometimes it is about getting together as a community, and all of this is are in the literature. These are not really new ideas, but the way sort of these research projects work for me is that I try and find from the literature and from the practices, like how can we engage these parents? How can we make the community more engaged in this, goal of teaching their children how to learn XYZ? So it's not just outcome based, it's also the process that they're enjoying the process. So having said that, I'll move on to the second question that I actually want to answer for this seminar. Like how can institutions support to improve learners' mental health, and what are the processes that enhance well-being in higher education spaces? These are two different questions, but I'm gonna try and answer both. So also as a researcher, right? I'm not a practitioner of who has a professional who has been teaching about mental health. But what I do as a researcher is that I incorporate mental health components. I incorporate mindfulness and other kinds of work into my design of either of the intervention or how I interpret the data about different human outcomes and inequalities in human outcomes. And since we're talking about mental health, the question of like how can organizations support, I would say that how can institutions support improve mental health? Let's be honest, the institutions don't want to support our mental health. That's not in the benefit, in their benefit. And the school system, the schooling system, and I think most of you will know and agree, given your backgrounds, that the schooling system is also not conducive for creativity and other kinds of human faculties that come with having a sound mental health. So if we are expecting the institutions to improve our mental health, we're actually looking in the wrong direction. And you may disagree with me, but I think that the changes start from the community. If the community demands that we are not okay with how the institutions are treating us, we are not okay with how the society is treating us, then they start talking, and then they start sharing information and practicing those information in their lives and come together as a community. And that's when the institution feels like, oh no, we really need to support what our what our workers need, what our community needs, or else they're not going to deliver. So I think there needs to be sort of a synergy between what we want and sort of communicating that to the institution. And the institution has to be willing to want to improve learners' mental health. Let's say, they want to improve learners' mental health. If I can think of, some of the projects that I've designed as, institutions, because, they sometimes, go on to work with the government for a few years, or, sometimes more than a few years. So why are these institutions supporting, improving learners' mental health? Because it's in the agenda of the institutions to do that. It is beneficial for the government or the organization who are supporting learners' mental health. And how they do it, in my research, what I've seen that what works for institutions and people who work in these institutions in terms of supporting mental health is by making it easier to work. And what I mean by that is there are three components to it, right? So it's not just about we are supporting your mental health by giving you XYZ. There are three aspects to how there are more than three aspects, but I'm gonna sort of summarize that. More than three aspects in terms of how an institution can support their workers or employees or teachers or even students. Number one is, at an individual level. So I'm drawing from a human development framework, at an individual level, as an individual, is this institution valuing what you're bringing to the table? And there are many ways to communicate that to the individual. At a more at a communal level, if you as in if you're working with colleagues and if you're working with other students or teachers in a school setting, how is this community designed? Is there enough, there are several different, elements to it. Is there enough space for communication? Is there enough space for collaboration? Are people really, interested in, working together, or if they're working from home, like, is there enough incentive to sort of come together as a team and support each other? So that's at the communal level. And then the third, I think the last but not the least, is at a financial level. Like, what are the economic incentives that you're getting from the institution, and especially in this, in the capitalistic world that we live in. Even if you want to practice mindfulness, even if you want to practice like mental health, you want to go for a walk in the park, everything has a cost attached to it. So is the institution giving you those benefits? Like, are they helping you with, free time to, go for a walk in the park? Are they giving you access to, like, gym memberships, if that's something that's on the plate and relevant to the culture, to your cultural context? Are they making it easy for you to take a leave from work due to like mental conditions, health conditions? Like, sometimes, there is a personal situation, you may have lost someone in the family, or you're going through some kind of trauma due to various reasons. Like, is there space for that? Can you recuperate from a setback with the help of your institution? So having said that, like, I would like to wrap up right now with one last comment about enhancing what are some of the processes that could enhance well-being in higher education spaces. I'm not going to go into the details of what the processes might look like, but I think at the core, what it looks like is that in the higher education space, is to let the process happen. In the higher education spaces, especially, coming from the North American perspective, even though I was born and raised in Bangladesh, there's a lot of emphasis on outcomes, a lot of emphasis on publications, a lot of emphasis on, even in the research projects, like, oh, are the outcomes like, significant, or statistically significant? Is this like, what is the standard deviation? So I think the process for us in such a toxic environment where everything is outcome driven should be to take a step back and actually focus on the process. Like, how have I done this work? What are some of the motivations for me to be designing this research in Colombia or India or Bangladesh? Like, how have I, approached this work? Is it from a place of trying to help? Is this from a place of trying to understand who we are trying to serve? Or is it outcome driven? Is it just because I want to, publish another dozen of papers on mental health, improving mental health of the refugees in the Rohingya camps in Bangladesh? So I ask myself these questions, and I think the administrators, the teachers, and whoever are in charge, are in positions of authority, also needs to ask questions about the process. Like, what is my process? Like, am I cool with this process? Am I okay with what I'm doing with my work and how I'm affecting people? So, I'm going to stop at this point, and I would love to actually engage in some discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima. That was really great, whatever you shared. And I love how candid you always have been, and you are. Institutions do not want to support mental health. So true. That is correct. And I wonder if, that's true across borders. So that's one of the things which I will address in a moment. But as you were talking about playful learning, that reminds me of one of the a module which I had created when in the initial phases, when I was using drama with children. I used to do workshops with children, and suddenly I realized that I want to engage the parents. So in the 1 month long workshops, after 15 days, I would have the parents come over and have a day where they used to do some ice breaking activities together, and then getting into improvisations and, mime and body movements and everything together for a day. And at the end of it, I used to reverse the roles. I would ask the parents to, do the role reversals and act in a particular given situation as children, and children would do that, act out as parents. And most of the challenges and concerns they had as children and parents, they would just get resolved while they were enacting out. So I think play has that it's very transformative and very powerful. It's just that as adults, as parents, people are often scared of getting back into the childhood or really being playful, with their kids or even young adults. So I think some of those processes can really be very beneficial to in really bringing more love and compassion and integrity within the family setups. So I'm actually wanting to ask Kimini, Yadu, and Fatima. So what do you think in your particular countries, wherever you're based? I know you and Kimini are both in the US, but different paths. So she's in Michigan, I believe, and you're in New York, and Yadu is in Nepal right now. So what do we think about the higher education institutions? Are they providing any support, or is there a possibility, or does the community have to lead? And the community gives a wake-up call to the institutions that, hey, listen, this is what we need. This is the requirement of the times, and we need to work around mental health for our children, for young adults. So yeah, any one of you, I think all of you, I would love to hear from all of you, but anyone can start. Okay.
Okay, so first I want to say in context of Nepal, basically there is a possibility if we can create some ideas and can convince to the people who are in the policy level, it may be introduced in the policy and we can develop some working documents, and just like if we have some collaborative partners to intervene, because this might be like one practice is there, like in the national curriculum in the school level and in the curriculum in the higher education, there is directly the word mindfulness is not there, but that is included with the integration of the soft skills. Like the students need to be involved in different activities, just like we told, playful activities like gamification or these other things, these are introduced. That's why we can intervene some of the new strategies, and we can convince the policymakers for this thing. If we get supports from some collaborative partners, really we can knock them for the issues in Nepal also.
Thank you so much, Yadu. So Kimini or Fatima, either of you can respond to that.
Yeah, I can talk. So in terms of the institutional support, I think probably compared to before, like maybe a decade ago or so, I think that nowadays the institutions are trying to bring in this wellness as component for their employees. And so as a matter of fact, I see a lot of, wellness centers on campus, and then people can actually go and then see the therapists and so on. But however, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is trying to kind of fill the gap. And, as Fatima was also saying, I agree with you as well in terms of the institution toxic, and then they're not really doing things for us. They have their own agenda. And I think, in this kind of like wellness rhetoric all over the places, even higher education or even outside, they had to bring in those services on campus for faculty, students, and then even administrators and staff. But at the same time, I think they bring wellness, but also they bring unwellness as well. And I think that's what Fatima was also saying about, sorry, Fatima or Fatima? Anyway, yeah. So there's a limitation on campus. People can maybe come together, but what I do is like creating a group of people online, which means, from different parts of particularly the US, sometimes Canada. So they don't really, sometimes they don't know each other, but they create a space virtually, really like intimate. And I try to keep that, I make the space as safe as possible, but of course, everything is not under my control. It's a co-creation of the space, but I really become really mindful of creating that effective where people can really share the vulnerability. And that's something I think a lot of faculty, even students, anybody on campus cannot really share with their colleagues or friends because of this, to some extent, competitive nature, a lot of power dynamics, and a lot of, the social locations. So then they come to my group, and then really they start opening up, and then sometimes really they tear up. And that's the kind of like healing space I'm trying to provide. So I'm not sure if I really answered your question, Charu, but it's from my perspective.
No, you very much did so, Kimini. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kimini. And I think we do see eye to eye on, some of the matters that you talked about, and I touched upon them. I apologize that I haven't, prepared for a presentation, but I think it's actually better this way. So, Charu, can you remind me what your question was? It was about institutions supporting mental health.
Right, yes. So what exactly is happening in your part of the world? And also, if you were to give us a clue about Bangladesh, I mean, if you have any idea what's happening there also, so that'll be great.
I only know as a researcher, I don't live in Bangladesh. I mean, I do spend, a few months there every year, but mostly in work capacities and to spend time with my family. What I can tell you, so let me start with where I am right now in New York, and then, where I'm from, which is Bangladesh. So in New York, or where I work in Philadelphia, at the University of Pennsylvania, or where I've worked in Boston or New York before, the culture is such that institutions will support your mental health to the extent that it improves your productivity. And they wouldn't do it like, because these are also very old institutions that I've been working for, right? So they have been there for hundreds of years, and they have this culture of, sort of carrying on that kind of tradition where you have to be on the top of the list for, things that you do, and ranking and publications on those kinds of things in academia. I'm coming from an academic perspective. But, these older institutions that are built on a lot of cultural capital that has, sort of grown over the years, value productivity, value ranking, value, outcomes, just to be like, blunt. And for them, if they're supporting their workers or employees, with insurance, to go and see a counselor or a therapist, or get like trauma counseling after something has happened. It's mostly to ensure that they can come back to work as soon as possible, right? So I think we need to be very clear about what's actually going on here. In order to change the culture, you can do a million things. I'm not going to go into that, but I just want to shine a light on what is actually happening. So mental health is still an afterthought. Mental health is still a band-aid. Mental health is not at the core of these institutions, or at the core of even academia. It's not a priority. Let's just agree on that, if we may. And then in Bangladesh, when I'm there as a researcher, mostly I'm trying to intervene. Mostly I'm trying to use my cultural and, linguistic knowledge to understand the community better, so that I can serve better as a researcher. And as Charu, you may know, like some of my work has been focused on supporting the mental health and employment and learning outcomes of the refugee populations, Rohingya refugee populations in Bangladesh, in Cox's Bazar, in the south of the country, where the camp is actually one of the largest the largest and most crowded refugee camp in the world. And there people don't have access to education, formal education, or employment. And one of the research that I've recently published, not to advertise my research, but we have seen that there is a very major correlation between having employment that is meaningful to people, adults, and then their mental health outcomes. Like their, depression symptoms have improved. They were feeling less traumatized after they have worked for, about 2 months, and the work that they have found meaningful. So I think this is a story I tell people, is because work is part of the mental health process. We cannot be satisfied and happy without having purpose in our life, without doing anything. We cannot just sit here and watch Netflix and be happy. As humans, we need to interact. As humans, we need to express ourselves. As humans, we need to feel useful and to have some meaning in our lives. So the way we got it right now in Bangladesh, or in the East Coast, in the USA, or elsewhere in most parts of the world, in a capitalistic world, if I may, we got it the wrong way. We focus on mental health for work, whereas we need to focus on work for mental health. So I see the same thing. In the refugee camps, we were able to experiment with this idea because there was no formal employment, so we could provide employment, even though it took us a long time to do that. But generally, if you go to Dhaka, which is the capital city of Bangladesh, everyone is focused on getting more money, buying the next nice car, and getting the best education for their children. At least at my age group, like I have friends with kids who are going to the best schools, quote unquote, the private schools, and they would be able to go to high school in the US or in the Switzerland and those kinds of things, right? But that's for what? To what end? And when I ask these questions in my social circle, to be honest, I'm considered a weirdo because I'm asking these questions, like, or sometimes, you live in New York and you're so privileged, and that's why you can question these things. You can question the system. But the thing is that it is true that I'm privileged. It is true that I have the luxury of sitting in an apartment in New York and thinking about how can we improve mental health in workspaces, and how can work be a part of our mental health processes. Like, work should not be the only reason we live. And anything should not be the only reason we live. We are humans, we are complex, we have so many more things to offer. So just going back to Charu's question, the status of mental health and how it's done and how it's thought of is, I would say, as an academic researcher, is not the right way we're thinking about it. And it's also not supported by the literature. So there is someone I follow, American psychologist Tara Brach. She's also a meditation practitioner and guru. If a lot of people consider her as a guru, and I've been following her work for a long time. And what I've seen is that the kind of work that actually works for me as a person, as an academic, what actually grounds me, meditation, or the kind of lifestyle and choices that I make or someone else makes that I like and helps me, are not practiced through the work environment that we are part of. The work environment only incentivizes attending to your mental health when it interrupts with the productivity of the institution. And so that's the wrong way to look at it. Whereas what I believe is that work should be geared towards improving our mental health. It's not the other way around. That mental health should be geared towards having more productivity at work.
So rightly said, Fatima. That answers my question, and it opens us a lot more, within me, and I'm sure amongst the participants also, to think about and question our existence to start with, and what are we here for? What are we doing? Are we beings or are we doers, as Kimini pointed out? And the session before this also, in the morning and the one in the afternoon, so they were all talking in line with what you just reflected upon, that the system is driving us to be a certain way. And it really becomes significant for us as thinkers to understand that we have a choice to sort of look deep inside of us, because it's a privilege to be alive. And because it's a privilege, so this experience of life needs to be in a certain way and not just get, dumped or crushed by the system that doesn't want us to live. It wants us to really perpetuate what they want from us, out of us. Even the processes about publications, as you mentioned, series of publications is when you get some kind of recognition in academia. I remember when I was wanting to do research in creative drama and education in the late 90s, I did not get any supervisor because it was such a new area. And, for 2 years, I was looking for a supervisor, right? It was challenging for me to find one and then to continue what I really wanted to research in. And I never was sort of inclined towards publications. Somehow, it never really stirred anything in me. It was more about researching. But now, we see that you have to have a certain amount of publications just to get a promotion, just to get, some recognition. So where are we headed is my question. And that also is about how mental health and issues and concerns that we have in academia, how we take all those baggages with us in the higher education world, where we are in front of the students, we are addressing them, and they look up to us, right? And we are really dealing with our own stuff sometimes, right? We don't really have an anchor who's there to guide us, support us. So as Professor Bruta said in the session earlier today, that even in the recruitment processes of teachers, a psychologist is really important. A psychologist is really important to see, if somebody has any challenges and to support them, to guide them, to, it's like hand holding. Yes, we all need that. Sometimes we do, right? So, is there anything else? Some questions, some thoughts? We are really heading towards the end of it, but I would like all of you to come up with, if there's anything that you would like to end the session with. It'll be nice to get the last words.
One thing, I think, as I said earlier about, those 5 reminders, but some of them, like, especially 2 things I want to kind of reiterate here. One is like body matters, and the mental health is not separate from our body, totally like really interconnected. So if we are sleep deprived, we cannot be mindful. There's no way. Mm-hmm. And so how can we enhance the quality of sleep, quantity and quality? So that's number 1. And also number 2 is like empty space matters, which means, transition. After this, I'm going to go jump into something else. How can we, mentally really follow through, like one thing to the next one? So how can we create the empty space in between? Just things like that. So in terms of when you see your planner, you might see like so much, like really packed with your appointments, meetings, but then how can we create a empty space on your planner? I think those are the practical suggestions maybe I can make. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kimini. That was wonderful. Yes, we need those spaces and moments to stop. In my presentation, I was talking about, that those big signboards that say stop for the traffic signal, where we need to stop every few hours, just take a deep breath and relax. There's nothing, we're not losing anything. I remember many years back, when I was in New York City, I was standing at the intersection and I literally stood there, Fatima. You wouldn't believe, I stood there for a minute or 2, and I was just watching. I was just an observer looking at how the traffic is rushing, how people are rushing. Everybody was in a rush, and I was asking myself,
Always.
Where are they going? Where is this world heading to?
I have the same question, Charu, and Kimini, thank you so much for, giving us, tips on these practices, because these may sound like very small tips, but they, literally change one's life. I mean, meditation has changed me in the way I, perceive. I mean, Charu has known me for almost like for half a decade or more, but I've changed as a person. I'm starting, more, right. So, I have changed how I look at the world. It's not better or worse. It's just that it calms me more. It grounds me better when I'm, present in the moment. So just to add to what Kimini said, the practices are very important. But because I, sort of think in terms of like concept, this one concept that we all know of, but I just want to remind us and myself of that. It's important to let go, and it's important to let go every day. And what does that mean? It could be just that, let's say you eat a certain type of meal every day, and then one day you can't make that meal, and you feel like guilty, or you feel like, oh, I haven't lived up to my standard because I couldn't make that healthy meal. But I think it's important to like give yourself that space to say that, it's fine. I'm still good. I'm still loved. I am still okay. And I'm still worthy if I didn't make that, like that complicated, like a chia seed pudding or, or something that's fancy on Instagram. That's totally fine. And if I'm not looking my best by my standards, that's fine too, because, who is to say what is great and what is pretty and what is beautiful and what is good, because it's all a perception at the end of the day. And I keep telling my students the same thing, and they're like, you just need to let go. And I keep telling myself every day, just relax. And even if you don't do anything with your life, you're still loved. Your friends will love you, your family will love you, and that's enough. That's enough to be happy.
Absolutely. Thanks for saying that. That's enough to be happy. And happiness is all that is, we kind of spend 40, 50 years of our life looking and seeking for happiness outside of us. And then, there's a wake up call, or we just sort of realize that, oh my goodness, that was all inside of me. Where was I looking? It's nothing outside, right? And you carry your happiness within you wherever you go. So lovely. So Yadu, I'd request you also for some wisdom as we
Thank you,
let
ma'am.
go
Yeah,
soon.
thank you, ma'am. At the last hour, just I want to share with the experiences that I observed now also. Really, we are aware with the mental health, but we need to be conscious. That's my reading. We're aware, but not as conscious. It need to be conscious, one part. Next part is like happiness. Without happiness, nothing is possible. But there is the question, when I will be happy? Yes, when I will be happy. Just one simple example I want to give. Like I may think myself, if I'm 6 years old, I will be happy. Then after this, if I pass my grade 5 with the first division or with this CGPA, I will be happy. Next, if I pass my like matric, I will be happy. If I pass my bachelor level, I will be happy. If I pass my like master's degree, if I do PhD, if I have a good job, then if I have a family, established family, if I earn lots of money, I will be happy. People think so. Then when they will be happy, this is very important part. And we need to teach them these ideas. Just like there is also looking for the space, looking for the gap also. That's why we need to give them the lesson. That's why I am connecting this thing with the pedagogy. This is the reason. Yeah. Likewise, these different variations, or like in the first session that I found, that is diversity. That is really, I just like diversity is one of the very generous part for this one. That's why we need to explore happiness without any clauses. Yes, we should not fix any clauses for the case of the happiness one. Then after, mental health will be in order. That is my understanding also. Okay, thank you for this opportunity and good understanding on. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
This is just on time, like 6 o'clock here. 6
Yeah.
6 o'clock, just perfect. And with a happy note that may good vibes, may love, compassion, kindness flow through us, through all sentient beings, to all the creation. May there be more peace and joy and love all around us, surrounded by it and exuding it to one and all. This has been a very, very wonderful day. And this particular session also, I'm so grateful for both of you to join in early morning, your time. Thank you so much. So grateful for your presence, both Kimini and Fatima. Is that time for vote of thanks, Yadu?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So formally, as the country director, India of Star Scholars Network, I would like to thank all the participants, all the organizers. I would particularly like to thank the Society of Transnational Academic Researchers, which is the Star Scholars Network, led by President our very special president, very supportive, Dr. Uttam Goli. He's at the University of Maryland, and he's also been a Fulbrighter. So that's how me and him connected when I was there in 2013. So with his support, with the support of Star Network and wonderful academic support and technical support and organizing support, this team has been great. And also we've collaborated with SEAM, which is Council for Educational Administration and Management. So the West Bengal chapter of SEAM has supported this webinar today, and I'm grateful for all the members as part of them, and Professor Dr. Shashi Kumar, who's the president of SEAM organization. So I hope that we meet, and we don't just meet for webinars, but we come out with some productive ideas which can be implemented and has an impact, right? And that's what I think as a human being, that who knows when you breathe the last, right? And then at least you leave something which the world feels happy about, and they can take while you're not there. So thank you, so grateful. Thank you again to everyone.
Thank you so much, Charu, and thanks everyone, Kimini and Yadu. It's very nice to meet you all, and I hope we stay connected.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll make sure.
absolutely. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So can we just leave? Thank you, Yadu. Thank you, Pankaj.